Hey, what's up guys? Today I am doing my December wrap up for 2021. It's my final wrap up of that year and I have a lot of really great books to talk about in this video. I done quite a lot of rereading near the end of the year. I was in just such a mood to, go back to some old favourites, so we'll discuss those at the end. But I actually read some amazing new books as well, and this very first one I'm going to talk about might make it onto my top 10 of 2021. I'm not sure yet what's going to be on that list. I really need to sit down and think about it, because I've done a lot of 5 stars this year, but okay, I'm like, what is a 5 star and then what is like a favourite? You know what I mean? I need to work it out. So anyway, that's not even the topic of this video. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, please subscribe. I feel like I'm in my football coach era and this is because I'm filming like the same day as I filmed my last video, and I was like, I need to mix up the outfit for the thumbnails. Anyway, no one cares. So the first book I'm going to talk about is The Young Team by Graham Armstrong, and he is a Scottish author, and this is a brand new debut novel that just came out this year. So I am really hyped to be talking about it because the author grew up 5-10 minutes away from where I grew up, and the book is set 5-10 minutes away from where I grew up. So it was such a weird sensation reading it because I could like visualize everything so perfectly. All the characters in this book were people like that I knew growing up, and it's called The Young Team, and young teams were basically like gangs of youth who like their whole lives revolved around like getting drunk, getting in fights with other gangs, getting in fights with the police, doing drugs. And it's this thing where it's like they are just like a strong friendship group, but then there's this whole element of like crime to it as well. But at the same time, everyone in these gangs was like under the age of 18. So it's just this like weird thing that was a big cultural moment in Scotland. Like it's kind of died out a little bit now, especially like in the area I grew up in. But I guess in like some rougher parts of Glasgow, it definitely is still a thing. And I don't know, it's just like, it was such an interesting book to read because I could visualize everything so clearly, and it's hard to review it from a standpoint where I don't have this attachment to like the area, the characters, etc. But I think overall, even if I didn't have that, like I would still love this book because the characters were just so interesting, and I just loved their journey. So the main character, Azzy Williams, he goes through such a big period of like transforming into an adult and then a stage of regression, and it's so frustrating to watch, but it's so incredibly realistic because although as much as we would love life to be like fiction where things get bad and then they just get all the way better, life's not like that. Life is like a roller coaster. So it was really interesting to watch that because it was very realistic, and I just really liked everything about it. One thing about this book that people will struggle with, I think, is that it's written in the dialect of central Scotland, so it's a lot of like slang and stuff like that, and it definitely takes some getting used to. Like even as someone who, I mean, I don't speak that way, but I grew up around it, like I hear it every day. It's like still, when you're seeing it on page, it's still hard to read at first, but if you give it a chance, I'm sure you'll love it. And I just absolutely love this book. It might even make it onto my top 10 list of 2021, but I'm not sure yet. So I also read Frenchmen's by Daphne du Maurier this month, and this was a perfect book. Like I absolutely loved it. And this one follows Donna, who is this upper class English woman. She's a mother, and she is not like other girls. She's a bit of a mischievous character, and she causes a big scandal in London because she like dressed up as like a man and was out riding on a horse doing some stuff. I don't even know what she was up to. She was up to stuff. So to get away from everyone talking about her for a bit, she goes down. Also, her husband's really upset, I think, is another thing. She goes down to their like country manor that's down near the sea, and there she meets a pirate who has been terrorizing the locals and stealing from the wealthy, and they maybe fall in love. I don't know, they go on some adventures. Donna is just crazy. Donna is wild. Donna is literally not like other girls, but not in a bad way. Like she was so perfect. I loved her character so much. I also loved the other characters. I loved the Frenchman, the pirate. There's a servant called William, and if you know me and my love of classics, I love like the staff and these big manor houses and how they get involved in the stories, and William was like, I loved it. Daphne du Maurier's writing as well, just the atmosphere, the setting of like this manor house, and then like the pirate ship and just everything to do with it. I loved it. And I also love the commentary of basically these upper class Englishmen who think that, women are stupid and foreigners are stupid, whereas in reality it's a woman and foreigners like outsmarting them. And I think Daphne du Maurier was very, very smart in the way that she wrote this book, and all the elements coming together. Like I just absolutely loved it, and I honestly couldn't think of a single bad thing to say about it. The next book I'm going to talk about is What You Can See From Here by Mariana Leckie, and this was originally written in German and it's been translated. And this was such a weird, unique book where I didn't fully even understand what genre it was meant to be. It was mostly contemporary, but with like a little bit of like supernatural fantasy elements to it, but then also like very much grounded in realism. So I don't really know what this is, but it was one of the most unique books I've read this whole year, and I still don't really know if I liked it or not. It follows a really unique cast of characters, all in this small rural village whose lives are all very interconnected. Like the main character is like this girl growing up in this village, but then her grandmother is like this very prominent figure in the village that everyone knows. And then there's also this man who is like in love with the grandmother, and then there's this neighbor who was an abusive neighbor, and he like abused his son, and then his son was like best friends with the main character. So there's all these characters' lives like interconnected, and they're also unique and so quirky. And the writing style, and I don't really know how much of this was the original prose and how much is the translation, but the writing style itself was very different. It was quite disjointed at times. So you had these really quirky characters and this kind of quirky writing style and this really hard to explain plot, and you put it all together and it was just a weird book. But I do think I liked it. Like, it was fun to read. I don't know if I'd really recommend it much, to be honest. Like, I haven't really thought about it since I put it down, but I don't know. It was just like a very unique, weird book that I'm struggling to describe. But I think, I don't know, if you like weird books, you'd probably like this. But if you are someone that's very much like, I'll also say this is very character driven. There was like no real plot at all. It was all about like these characters' relationships. So that's another thing to watch out for. But yeah, if any of this appeals to you, maybe have a look, but I don't know, it's a weird one. Another book I read this month was Cytonic by Brandon Sanderson, and this is the third book in the Skyward series. And I absolutely loved book 1 and 2. I listened to them back to back on audiobook, and I also listened to this one on audiobook as well. I have to say, the audiobook narrator is so good. Like, the way that she gives all these characters like different voices and stuff, like, I just absolutely love that. So my issue is not with the audiobook at all. My issue is the fact that I went into this book thinking it was like the end of a trilogy. So I'm in this book and I'm listening and I'm kind of enjoying it, kind of excited to see how Brandon Sanderson wraps it all up. And I'm looking at the time and there's like half an hour left, and then there's 20 minutes left, and then there's 10 minutes left, and then the book was over. And I was like, wait a second, and I googled it and it was like, yeah, there's a fourth book. And I don't know if the fact I thought it was a third chapter ruined the reading experience for me, but this book just felt so incomplete. And I don't know if maybe I went into it, like if I went into it knowing it was only like a middle chapter, I don't know if I'd still have liked it more. There's just something about this book that just didn't do anything for me, like at all. Like, the main highlight of one of the first Skyward books, the first one, Skyward, is that Spencer has this amazing cast of characters around her, and then you go into book 2 and they're all away off to the side, and like so off to the side that they're not even there, and you have a whole new cast of characters. And I was like, okay, like I guess we'll meet up with the original cast soon. This third book, all of those characters from book 1 and book 2 are gone pretty much, and you're just left with another new set of characters. And I mean, I like these ones as well, but it's like, can we please get back to the ones we have already met? Like, I don't know. I think the fact that I expected this to be the end of a trilogy and then it was just another middle chapter really messed up my reading experience, but this book did nothing for me. I also read My Cousin Rachel by Daphne du Maurier, and this is my least favourite of the 4 books by her that I've read, but I still give it 4 stars, and I still really enjoyed it. Like, it was not bad at all. Just out of the 4 that I've read, this was the weakest in my opinion. This book follows, our main character is called Philip, and his cousin Ambrose goes off to Spain on a wee holiday, and there he gets married to a woman called Rachel, who is sort of their cousin, but like also not really. So it's called My Cousin Rachel, but they're not actually cousins. And then Ambrose mysteriously dies after sending some messages saying that he doesn't trust Rachel. And then obviously Philip is like, what the hell? And then Rachel comes to England and moves into the house, and you have this whole kind of cat and mouse game of like, can we trust Rachel? Should Rachel be offended at the way Philip's treating her? Like, is she innocent? Is she not? Like, what is the truth? And I think that the balance was perfectly struck between, you know, making you suspicious of her and then making you feel bad for her. And it was really clever. Like all of Daphne du Maurier's books that I've read anyway, it was just like so perfectly like just plotted out, like the way that she made you think, like 1 minute you trusted her, 1 minute you didn't. And you could really understand why Philip would get into the situations he gets in. And I will say, at some point you're like, Philip, come on. Like, even if you do trust her, you're taking it a bit too far. but I just absolutely love this as well. Like, when I say it's my least favourite, that is still like such a high standard. Like, Daphne the Maurier is, well, spoilers for my favourite author's video, but she's going to be up there. She's going to be up the top of the list. Maybe behind Sylvia Plath. I don't actually know. Well, that's a different video. Anyway, I really enjoyed this, and I think that it was a little bit slower at times than some other books by her. It wasn't the perfect one. Like, Frenchman's Creek and Rebecca are perfect. This one isn't perfect, but it's still pretty damn good. And then this month I reread Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, Harry Potter and Chamber of Secrets, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, and then I read for the first time, I think, I probably read it when I was younger, but I don't remember, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. And I'm just going to talk about all these in one because I don't want to go into too much detail on them because, I mean, everyone knows what Harry Potter is about, pretty much everyone anyway, and you don't need me to explain every plot individually, but I just absolutely have loved rereading these books, and it's honestly been like all I've thought about all of December. It started off because I rewatched the movies, and then I was like, you know what, I just want to reread the books. Like, I've wanted to do it for years, and it's just never been the right time because, I mean, I'm not going into it, but you know. And then I was, like, you know what, I know that I want to reread them, so I'm just going to do it. And I've absolutely adored it. My favourite one so far, I'm currently, what's over there, at Order of the Phoenix, but out of my 4 that I've reread so far, Goblet of Fire is actually my favourite, and I wasn't really fully expecting that. I used to think Chamber of Secrets was my favourite because out of the movies, Chamber of Secrets is perhaps my favourite movie, but I also don't know if that's just because that's the one I rewatched all the time when I was younger. Like, I had them all on DVD, but for some reason I just loved Chamber of Secrets and I rewatched it all the time. So I always thought that was my favourite, but upon rereading the books, Chamber of Secrets is actually my least favourite out of the 4 books so far, and I actually really prefer the movie to the book, whereas the other ones, I would say Philosopher's Stone, the movie and the book are pretty much like equals. Maybe the movie's a little bit better, but like Prisoner of Azkaban, I never used to like as much, and I loved it this time. And Goblet of Fire was just so good. Like, I just love all the details of like the world and the characters, and I mean, it's Harry Potter. I don't need to explain it to you guys, but I've just absolutely been in love with it again. And I'm so happy that I finally just reread it and just was like, you know what, now's the time, I want to do it. And it's been great. I'm not gonna lie, it's been so fun. So I'm excited to continue on. I really want to finish the last 3 in January. I think I will. I'm pretty much reading them like back to back to back. But yeah, also Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them was okay. I gave it 3 stars. Like, it was fun, it was cute, but it was literally like a textbook basically. So it's like, it's nothing amazing. There's no plot, obviously. It's literally like a textbook, but like a fictional textbook. But yeah, I just want to say I love Harry Potter so much. And I rewatched the Return to Hogwarts like 20th anniversary documentary thing last night. It was so good. I almost cried. It was lovely. I actually nearly cried so many times when I rewatched the movies for some reason. So I rewatched the first 6 in the cinema, but then Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2 I couldn't because I was working that day. Because they had them like on like Saturday, Sunday. And oh my god, there was so many times where I just got so teary-eyed for no reason. Like, I'm not a crier, like I don't cry ever, but for some reason Harry goes into Diagon Alley for the first time. I started getting watery eyes. Oh my god, when at the end of Chamber of Secrets, Hagrid comes back from Azkaban and they run up and everyone's hugging him and everyone's cheering. I was in the cinema, I was like, oh my god. I don't know, I just love it so much. But anyway, you all know what Harry Potter is. I don't need to explain it to you, but yeah, I love it. So, you guys know the drill. If you have any thoughts on these books, I would love to hear it down in the comments. I would love to discuss with you. I know it's been taking me a while to get 2 comments recently, but I do reply to every comment. Like, I always reply to every single comment. It just sometimes takes a little while, but I love hearing all your comments. And one of the things is, it's so dumb, I read every comment as it comes in on the notifications. Like, I read them all, and I see if I just replied to them as I read them, there'd be no issue. But instead, I let them all build up. Like, I read them and I think, I literally think of replies in my head, and then I'm like, okay, I'll reply later. And then it's like 2 weeks later. But anyway, I do reply to every comment, and I love hearing from you. So please do. Please comment. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. Please subscribe if you're not already for more content. And I hope everyone's having a nice new year, and I will see you in the next video.